it means, I think, but the one I know the best. All right, but we're not there yet. We should have gotten there last night, but we're still here at the bottom of Ayin Alpha Vase. Kosav Osachos b'Shabbos. Second line from the bottom. Kosav Shabbosu v'Osachos b'Shabbosu. You wrote one letter on this Shabbos, another letter on the next Shabbos. Shabbos Abba. Reb Lezer Mechayev Chatas. Reb Shua Poter. Lezer says Mechayev Chatas. Shua says you're exempt. You're exempt. Asach Isa Chami. Let's try and bring a proof. Ilu Kosav Osachos b'Chol. If you wrote one letter on a weekday, Osachos b'Shabbos, and one letter on Shabbos, Reb Lezer Mechayev Chatas. Reb Lezer says Mechayev Chatas. Bein b'Shabbosu, bein b'Shabbos haba. If that's the case, certainly if you wrote one on one Shabbos, one on the next Shabbos, lo koshkein, is it not a kavachomer? So it's pashut. Obviously, you're chayev. So it says, you're right. Its truth is, it's obvious you're chayev. So why did you bother even telling us the case of one on this week and one on the next week? Because in Chacham Shem Potin, because Chacham do consistent with Chacham, meaning Rabbi Yeshua, that consistently patters. So he wanted to tell us that even this case, even if we're both written on Shabbos, but was written in the first Shabbos, one was written in the next Shabbos, that Chachamim are pater as well. Okay? Says the Gemara says the Mishnah further. Somebody who makes two of the little loops in order to thread the thread through the loom, with a kirus, the Gemara is going to explain what a kirus is, and a ubenafa, and a sieve, and a kvara, a colander, with a sal, and a basket. You're making all these loops to hold the threads in place, or the strands in place. Chayev. Hatover states here, somebody who knows the sews 2 stitches. Filkoram naslit for state 3 rows, or somebody who rips and with the intent of sewing sewing 2 stitches. So they're chayev as well. What are benirin in the raya, in the little holes? What is bekirus in a kiruma? Kiruma is something which, who knows? It's something, it's some sort of basket which you weave, and that has certain, when you weave it, you have to hold the fibers in place. So you put them in a botenirim. Right? Babisha Rabbi Yirmiyah said, Hamitmatech tzedodov. Somebody who tightens his seams on Shabbos. The seams of a garment. Chai mishum tofer. It's chai because of sewing, because he's sewing together the seam, right? Now, obviously, it's an act of tightening, it's an act of sewing. Neymar mishum tofer mishum kosher. Jews, we should add on that he was tied because of tofer and because of kosher. However, the Gemara says that this is the Mefarshim say that this is only if you actually tie it. If you don't tie it, you're only chai because of tofer, and this is really not a relevant statement here. It's brought down because it's brought down somewhere else in Shas, in this context, which has nothing directly to do with us. Okay. Hakurei b'chamasu. Somebody who rips in his anger. V'ameso, or rips for a person who died in his family, Rachmana litzlan. He's potter, because he's mekalkel. Call mekalkel because he ruins. Call mekalkel determine anybody who rips anything and ruins it is potter. From mekalkel amnas l'sakin, except that somebody who ruins with the intent to fix, shiur k'misakin, the shear in that case is the same shear as fixing. Okay, because mekalkel amnas l'sakin is chayev, and therefore the chayev is the same shear as you chayev when you fix. Bon kli Rabbi Bo. Here it is, guys. Ready? Drum roll. Bokli Rabba. The answer from Rabba. Heich mata omar tamo. Just like you said just like you say over there. Hashoichik chatosa b'Shabbos. The Jews muchiv chatos, and he brings the Beit Hamikdash and he shechts it himself. So what's the status? Heich mata omar tamo. Hashoichik chatosa b'Shabbos kiper. He atones for his original sin. Maybe acheres. But he's got to bring another chatos on his current sin, right? Because the sin of being Mechal Shabbos. V'amar afhacha. Say here also. It should be yot. Take out the word lo. It's a mistake. Yotzei de karo. Let him be considered ben yotzei's chiv kriya al meso, right? The Mekai in the midst of the rabbanon of kriya, and then let him bring korban. We said in our Mishnah he's potter. Right, we assume he's potter because he didn't fulfill a mitzvah. Ask me, why not? Let her fulfill the mitzvah and let her bring a korban, just like the guy who brought a chatos on Shabbos, who fulfilled his mitzvah of the chatos and then brings another chatos to be mechaper for the chet of Chilul Shabbos.
The Kriya for mace was not almanas l'taki.
So what? The mitzvah in and of itself should be positive.
So the tikkun is doing the mitzvah.
Right. That should be the case. The Gemara is not going to say that, but that's Gemara's Havamid. The tikkun mitzvah tikkun itself. Right. So says Gemara, you know what? El Rabbi Shimon. No, the reason why I don't bring another the reason why it's not considered to be a true malacha is because we pass on like Rabbi Shimon who says malach shein tzricha l'gufa potter. So in the Mishka, when they used to rip, for what purpose did they rip? In order to fix, right? And here, this is really what you're answering. So in war here, you're ripping in order to fulfill the mitzvah. So that's malach shein tzricha l'gufa. That's why you're potter. Okay. Says the Gemara. Sorry. Okay, the Rabbi Shimon Amar until he has need for the thing itself. Amar lo. So they tried to say a different teretz. They said, you know what? Let's try this teretz on for size. Let's say this is a chiluk. Tam and hu garm latzmo. There by the korban, he caused it himself. Now, what do you mean he caused himself? Well, I want to throw in something here. But right, but the Or Sameach wants to say. I wrote down so I more. The Or Sameach wants to say that this is a question of.
Anything that you divide up and it's still called by the same name, you can divide it.
But really, the Gemara is implying that by a chatos it should be a case of mitzvah ba ba'avera. Why is he mechaper? Right? The Chorah is a mitzvah ba ba'avera. The mitzvah of bringing the korban comes to the avera of Chilul Shabbos. Right? So that we want to say that perhaps we can answer. This is all the Meshech Chochmah says. This is all what's going on behind the scenes, and one doesn't explicitly address this. That perhaps you could say that it's by our case, it's the kriya is a malacha shein tzricha l'gufa potter because your intent was to rip for the sake of ripping, not for the sake of fixing. And ripping for the sake of ripping, not for the sake of fixing, is a malacha shein tzricha l'gufa. However, over there, it's not a mitzvah ba ba'avera, because there, what would we say? The way he learns that means over there, he caused himself.
When can you divide it up? When can you only divide it up if it's a certain amount? They both don't want to do it.
I don't know. I'm looking at it. I don't see how it works. I tried to make all the Meshech Chochmah. It's not going to work. I don't see how it's going to work. Let me do it without it then. Just a push path. Mitzvah ba'avera does come in later. Let's not introduce it now because I see it's not going to work. Let's try it like this. Again. Let's say you're kriya. Now, Arm alone, they said another teretz. They tried to say different teretz. Over there, the way the Mashbiach and all the Achronim explain this line, it means that there he has an additional benefit by doing the mitzvah. What's the additional benefit he has to doing the mitzvah? He gets the kachim. He gets not to be ois mechusar kippurim. He gets to bring his kapara, so he's got an advantage for himself, right? That's why it's not a malacha shein tzricha l'gufa. It was just for the purpose of the mitzvah itself, solely exclusively for the purpose of the mitzvah that he brought the chatos, and that would be a malacha shein tzricha l'gufa. Why? Because normally, what is shech the chatas for? What is shech an animal for? Eat, right? And here you're not shechting in order to eat, right? You're shechting for the purpose of the mitzvah. Says, well, no, you are shechting for the purpose of some advantage. What's the advantage? Mechusar Kippurim gets ois Mechusar Kippurim. You can eat kachim, which means you can eat kachim, and so on and so forth. You get your kapara. So there, that's more said. There, he's got an advantage for himself. Here, you're causing it for him. In other words, does he get any advantage from doing the kriya? No, zero, right? You made him do the mitzvah. So therefore, it's a very basic difference. There, it's a melacha tzrich l'gufa. Here, it's a melacha she'ena tzrich l'gufa. Because here, he doesn't get an advantage. Here, he gets an advantage. Says, we're a boo, boo, boo. I'm Rabbi Yossi. Vafil tama not go remeslo. Over there, what? He needs korbanos, like a hole in the head. What does he need a carbon for, right? God made him do it. Right? He doesn't want to be in korban as far as he's concerned. He doesn't get to eat from it. He doesn't get an off from it. He'd rather not be there. So therefore, it says, you caused him to it. If you didn't tell him to bring it, how would he want to achieve kapar? Meaning, why would he want to come and do kapar?
So we didn't tell him to bring it on Shabbos.
What?
We didn't tell him to bring it on Shabbos. So it's still, he's benefiting from it.
He's still benefiting from it.
Houses that open up into the chutzner, right? We have Pesach, almost
What?
We told, what's the Gemara's answer? That we told him to bring the house.
Right.
And therefore, it's like an obligation. It's not. He's not benefiting. Right? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
And I'm saying, because he's bringing it on Shabbos, he is benefiting because he's, like the Gemara said, he's eating from the korban.
No, but let's say he's Yisrael. Let's say he's Yisrael. He can't eat a chatos. So what's he going to eat? He can't eat anything. Okay, so it says more. Again, if you wouldn't tell him to bring it, how would he achieve kapara? So that's case he should be potter, right? He should be potter there as well. So it says Rabbi Shimoni. So you got to say that it's Rabbi Shimon. Now this is a little bit difficult. What exactly the Gemara means? So you got to say it's Rabbi Shimon. I don't know exactly what the Gemara means. I think what the Gemara means as a result of this is to say that bias Malacha Shrein Zagufa makes him potter, right? It makes him potter because he didn't intend to rip for the purpose which one normally rips for. Over there, Malacha Shrein Zagufa doesn't apply. Why does Malacha Shrein Zagufa apply? Again, because we're arguing in Rabbi Yossi. We say that he does achieve an advantage. In other words, the Gemara comes back to after bringing down Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara lifts up its hands in despair and says, the chiluk must be something based on Rabbi Shimon. What exactly it is, I don't know if the Gemara itself knows for sure at this point. Because the Gemara say that here it's a malacha she'en tzricha gufa, and there it's a malacha tzricha gufa. Why is it tzricha gufa? So it has to be that there's an advantage which accrues to him by having his korban sacrifice, which doesn't accrue to him by the case of kriya. What it is, the Gemara never divulges to it. Because the concept of ad korel goram tolo means that it's not really an advantage to him. It's really part and parcel of the mitzvah. So the Gemara leaves that basically, from our perspective, dangling. But then the Gemara says, "Chavraya bo yekumi Rabbi Yossi." The Chavra asks Rabbi Yossi, "Lo ken amar Rabbi Yechon Rabbi Shem Yotzodak." Didn't Rabbi Yechon say Rabbi Shem Yotzodak? Matzah gezula eina yetze bo yidei chavo chavo. So Pesach, a stolen matzah, you're not yetzer chiyuv on Pesach. So therefore, over here, how could we yetzer your chiyuv kriya? Right? It's mitzvah ba'avera. And here we get to the issue of mitzvah ba'avera, right? The kriya is a ba'avera of Hilchil Shabbos should be chayev. I'm sorry, shouldn't be a mitzvah. Just like if you steal matzah on Pesach, it's not a mitzvah. So what's the distinction between the two? Says Mar Malon, he said to them, no, this is the famous line. Came just in time for the famous line in the Yerushalmi. So Gemara says Gemara, Amar Lon Tamon Gufa Avera. He said there, in and of itself is an Avera. B'Ramacho hu avar Avera. But here he transgressed an Avera. Chepta Gabra Chiluk. By the matzah, the mitzvah came about through an Avera. By the kriya, he did an Avera at the time that he was doing the mitzvah. It's not the same thing. Says more a comparable case. What would you say? Would you say like this? If you took a matzah Rishusa Yochid Rishusa Rabbi, can you subsequently Eino Boy Yotze Boy Decha Bosa Pesach cannot be Yotze Rechiv on Pesach? Of course, be Yotze Rechiv on Pesach with it. Hi, what's the difference? What's between a matzah which is stolen and a matzah which is transported through Rishusa Rabbi?
You're dividing up your chutzner.
So that's what Yerushalmi is saying.
How do you divide up?
Depends whether the mitzvah came about through an Aveira or whether you did an Aveira with the mitzvah. And there, in the case of the matzah which you stole, you would not have been able to perform the mitzvah without stealing it. So the Aveira was the foundation for the mitzvah. As the Yerushalmi put it, Gufa Aveira. Here, when you took the Yerushalmi, you couldn't eat it where it was. The fact you chose not to, you did an Aveira with the matzah. But it's not mitzvah above Avera. So too with the kriya. The kriya itself is not the Avera, right? You did. Well, I shouldn't say that. The garment didn't come to you through an Avera, right? The possibility of doing kriya did not come about through an Avera. What happened is that you yourself did an Avera at the time you did the kriya. Okay, so what's fundamental in Yerushalmi is the possibility, the capacity to do the mitzvah must be rooted in an Avera in order to invoke mitzvah above Avera. If all you did was simultaneously or in conjunction with the Avera you did a mitzvah, that's not mitzvah above the mitzvah you did an Avera, that's not mitzvah above Avera. It's a radical new definition. What? Mitzvah comes through an Avera. Mitzvah, a positive command which comes about through a sin.
Similar, but maybe you're saying the same thing. But the way I'm understanding what you're saying, which I do understand, is if it's not your matzah to begin with, how could you ever do a mitzvah of applying the mitzvah of eating matzah when it's not yours? It's like the same thing with a ruah, right? You can't steal someone's matzah.
Right.
Here, in the other case where you're taking the matzah from one rishus to the other, it's your matzah.
Right.
And
the essential condition of your matzah is fulfilled.
You're getting the mitzvah, and in addition to that, you're also getting the mitzvah.
Right. Well, another way of putting it, perhaps more abstract even, is it depends if what you need action number one to get to action number two, or an action causes two separate results. Okay? So if an action, you need action one to get to action two, so then that's mitzvah b'avera. If one action causes both the mitzvah result and the avera result, then the avera does not extinguish the mitzvah. Okay, then the mitzvah stands on its own.
Another analogy is going.
You know, ever heard of this from
I've not heard this from Shama.
Very famous. Yeah.
Going into a mikveh with the sherets, holding the sherets. Would that be the same?
Yeah, it could be that that's a similar type of situation. Although there's no nafkamina l'maisa there, but it'll be a similar idea. Whether you remain Talmud or begin, we've talked about that in the past. So,
but Bobby's thing about matzah gzula is
that's coming up.
It is?
Yeah, Tani.
Oh, there it is.
Matzah gzula also varicholeh. You looked ahead. No, I know you didn't. Tani.
Too tired to look at.
Matzah gzula, stole matzah, also levaricholeh. Now to make a brach on it. Amar Rabbi Yisrael said, why not? Al shem ubotzeh berach nietz Hashem. Because somebody who makes a brach of this sort is blasphemous. So Amar Rabbi Yisrael said, Hoda dat Amar, that which you say now to make a brach is b'tchila, before you eat it. Abasof, but at the end, after you ate it, it's no longer around, it's no longer stolen. Dami hu chayev lo, is he not chayev to pay money other words, you already acquired the matzah. By the time you bench, it's yours. By the time you cut the bench, it's yours. What do you have to pay him back now? Money, dummy. So therefore, at this point, you have to bench. Says more, Rabbi Yonah Amar ain't aver mitzvah. Rabbi Yonah argues, and I'm learning this like carbonate, although the B or the Reb Chaim Kanievsky is a very different shot. But Rabbi Yonah says, ain't aver mitzvah. You didn't aver when you ate it? You can't do a mitzvah with it after you didn't aver with it. So therefore you can't bench. Rabbi Yossi Amar the exact opposite. Ain't mitzvah avera. A mitzvah does become an avera. And not only that, says the Korban. You know what? He can even make a bracha l'chatchila. Why can you make a bracha l'chatchila? Because one wrong doesn't lead to the other one, right? Your bracha has no din of ownership, right? You're about to eat food. It's like we have the Gemara brachas, ganva pumach tarta achmona karya. The ganav, when he goes to burglarize the home, he calls the David Sakash Baruch Hu that it should be matzliach. So it's the same thing here. Okay, you got to eat. But chach make a mitzvah, a bracha on it before you eat, right? So he says, ein mitzvah ber. Amrei Ravila said, ela mitzvahs. These are the mitzvahs. Imasyos mitzvah. He argues again. He says, imasyos. How he learned how mitzvah bar ba'aver concept from here. Imasyos and mitzvahs. And if you didn't properly, hey mitzvahs, they are mitzvahs. Imlav and mitzvahs not. They are not mitzvahs. Okay, so the bottom line of this Yerushalmi, which all the Achronim speak about, any Achron worth of salt, says again, what's the difference between tam on gufa avera by the case of the chatos which you sacrificed on Shabbos in and of itself is an avera, right? Like the stolen matzah, but here who the person over avera. And again, although we didn't understand fully why, but Yerushalmi distinguishes between the Korea Chamos and Shabbos, which is taka melacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa, and your taka potter, and your taka yotzei mitzvah, and you don't require any kapor afterwards. And the case of a person brings a chatos on Shabbos, that it's considered to be tzricha l'gufa, again, probably because of the benefits he receives, right? And therefore, if you did that, your yotzei, your chiyuv mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah ba'aver like Yerushalmi Mechan said, right? Because again, it's like Yerushalmi says, who over avera? That's not you didn't avera with it, but that's not the cause for it, and therefore we say that he's yotzei is a mitzvah, but he has to be a chatas for having been b'chal Shabbos.
Is he over on the avera of avelus for Shabbos?
No, so it's only the Rabbanan, so it doesn't concern us at the moment. Secondly, Kriya is not avelus; it's a sign of covenant mace. I don't think it's the same thing. I don't think so. I mean, it is, a sign of avelus, but I don't think the ripping itself. The wearing of the ripped cloth afterwards might be, but not the ripping itself. All right, we'll continue that tomorrow for a few minutes. Let's go on. Shiur Malabin. The shiur, I think they turned off the air conditioner.
I don't think so, too.
It feels like it. Shiur Malabin. The shiur of bleaching, Manapes is the card wool, Vatzaveh to color, to dye wool, Vatzaveh to put strands of wool together to make thread. Shiur Kamole Rochav Asikofel twice as much as this, from index finger to middle finger, which is one of this. It's something like that, or it's twice of this, which is one of this, right? Yeah, it's this, which is twice of this, right? Okay, got it.
In certain neighborhoods, these are gang signs.
Those are gang signs. Okay.
This one is the God. This
All right. Certain neighborhoods, Mr. Zucker's neighborhoods. Okay. Somebody who weaves two threads. Shiur kamole seat. The shiur is a single seat, not a double seat, because you have two threads. Okay. Tamti, you learned over there. There you said that the amount of wool which you take out or to cook, but really also our emphasis here is on to dye. It's enough to dye. There it says enough to cook a small egg, or to dye. It means enough to dye, as the Korban brings down, enough to dye a small garment. Yet here, obviously, once you started the dyeing process, it takes much less to be chayev. enough to dye 2 threads, right? So Taman ben Motzi Litzvah, there, we mentioned that's territory back then. You only take out something if it's choshev. And choshev means enough to color a small garment, right? Otherwise, it's not a choshev amount to be motzi. But the activity of dyeing is significant even for a lesser quantity, which means even for 2 threads. Okay? So the amount to take out in order to be chayev is the amount to dye more. The amount to actually be chayev for dyeing is less, because that's very significant vis-a-vis dyeing. Okay, new topic. Rabbeinu says Atzot Tzipor Lemigdol. Somebody who entices a bird into a closet and keeps it there, Vitzvi Lebais, or entices a deer into a house, he's chayev. What's he chayev? Triumph. Chomrim Tzipor Lemigdal, yes, a bird into a closet, but Tzvi, a deer even into a large area such as a gina, a garden, a chotzer, a yard, be born a kind of a corral. Rashim Omer local be born. Sure, it depends on the dimensions of the corral. If it's very large, obviously it's not going to be properly hunted. Zakal General Britzel called Mechus anything which is not properly hunted, potter, if you put it into such an area where it's still not properly hunted, you potter. Shane Mechus you put in an area where it's no longer requires additional trapping, it's trapped, then you're chayev. Arachani said Masnis in the Mishnah and Beitzot, Lo Rabbi Yehuda is not Rabbi Yehuda. We learned over there Hatzot Tzipor Lemigdol. Somebody first we see it seems to go like Rabbi Yehuda. Hatzot Tzipor Lemigdol, somebody who actually this is our Mishnah. Sorry. Then we learned in our Mishnah Hatzot Tzipor, somebody who catches a bird Lemigdol to a cloud, to tzvi or a deer. L'bayis chayev. The house is chayev. That's Rabbi Yehuda's statement. That indicates to us that the flip side, the gina will be born if you capture the deer into a garden or into a small penned area, you're potter. Now take off the next 4 words. The Korbanei takes about the Tiyat Hamaya. We learned over there. Ain't saying dog may not be boring. One is not allowed to catch fish from a corral, from a pen. Beinas of name is also nor is one allowed to feed fish on Shabbos because they're wild. You're not allowed to feed them. Now there's an important missing word here, the word v'chule, and the Mishnah goes on to say over there that a chaya is considered ready hunted when it's in your bibor, right? And when it's in your bibor, it's considered hunted. Now that's clearly not like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Because Rabbi Yehuda said it's only considered to be hunted when it's in your house, not when it's in your pen. So we see that Mishnah over there is not going like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Gino be boring potter. So obviously for a Gino or a bibar, according to Chachamim, you're potter, right? But it says there clearly, because it has to be according to Rabbi Yehuda, has to get into a closet or into a house. Yet there it seems quite clearly that we'd say you're chayev once it's in a Gino or a bibar. Now why is that over there? How do we know that? Because the Mishnah there says once it's in a Gino or a bibar, you're allowed to feed it. It's considered to be domesticated. Because the Gino or bibar from before Shabbos, it's yours and you have to feed it. So from this, the Mishnah deduces that what's considered to be truly hunted down and trapped, according to that Mishnah in Beitzah, now when it gets into a house or into a closet, but even once it's in a Gino or a bibar, in a garden or in a pen, that's sufficient, right? There seems to be contradiction to Rabbanan as well. The thing we learn, Chachamim say, Tzipor Lemigdal v'tzvi l'gino. If you catch a bird in a tower or a deer in a yard or in a gino as a vegetable patch, a front courtyard, it will be born or a pen. That's what it says over here, right? In our Mishnah, right? It said over there in Beitzah, you're allowed to take in a bird or a animal to shecht on Yontif. V'noisiv name Mizonos, you're allowed to put food in front of them. It says only be borit, only if it's already be bor. L'gino l'chatzelo. Sounds like gino l'chatzer not considered to be truly trapped. Says Gemara, you know what the difference is? Kam b'chatzer mekura, kam b'chatzer shein mekura. Depends if it's roofed over or not. If it's roofed over, it's a valid chatzer, and it's not considered any more catching. Once the deer's in there, it's already caught. If it's a unroofed over chatzer, then it's not considered to be already caught. Says Gemara, boo. But didn't we learn Gina We're talking there about vegetable patches. Isach Lameim or Ginar Makura. Can you say vegetable patches roofed over? How do you get the sun to have photosynthesis? Okay. So it says the Gemara, really what depends on is the size. Because if it's a large courtyard, then it really, the deer is not caught. You have to do another mitzvah to catch it. If it's a small courtyard, then deer is considered caught. How should I learn this? Anything which is lacking hunting. In other words, it has to be hunted down still on Shabbos. You're chayiv if you do so. So it's not lacking hunting down. It's fully correct. What's the word? No, better word. Maybe capture. Maybe something better, but I can't think of it off. So, if it's not lacking any tzed, it's completely capturable, whatever. So you're potter. Amar then let's say that's the principle. Amar said no. V'lo, it's a typo. The next word b'minpal, it should be b'noal. So it says in Masech Beita. B'noal l'sochanu chayami. This is even talking about a case where daraisa it's already hunted down by being in a locked area. In other words, it's already closed, right? No out means already locked up. Ella, so rather, this is the way to learn it. Kol mechusar tzeda osir, it's not chayiv, because it's already a locked up area. It's just a large locked up area. So it's also the rabbona. Shein mechusar tzeda, so it's not like in tzeda mutter, you're allowed to take it in and shecht it on the yontav and so on and so forth. Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel, Achoy, the Rabbi Berachah, the brother of Yechid said, Kol shu mechusar nishavim mechusar tzeda, anything which requires, which is missing nets. In other words, that the area is large enough in order to catch the sheep, you need a net. So that's not considered nitzo, and you can't take an animal there in Yontav because it entails the Yisur of Tzeidah. Shein mechusar nishavim, which does not require nets, and a mechusar tzeidah, it's not considered to be lacking in its being hunted down. Shechlim Nagarim was allowed to shech the animals which are in the Nagarim, in a place where there's grazing land, so literally the flows the river. V'lomina machmaris, v'lomina mitzudos, not aware if they're caught in nets or in traps. Now the reason why if not they're caught in nets or traps is talking about where according to Korbanah we don't know if they were there from before Shabbos, and therefore we don't know if it's muchan. Korbanah Moshe is talking about large traps, and large traps it's not considered to be fully trapped, right? Because it's not fully tangled. So it's not fully tangled. Not because it's a trap there we can't check the no Shabbos. Aniyotiv. Rabbi Yossi Bar Bum B'Shem Rabbi Yami said, Matzda the shitza. A mitzuda, a net, is a large net. A large net is not fully caught. Shmuel Tzadu B'Pitam. Shmuel said, according to Bnei Moshe's interpretation, it means that Shmuel would take fish which are already in a barrel and use them on the yontif, or for that matter could be Shabbos as well, to eat raw fish, make sushi. So the bottom line is he would use this fish even once it's a barrel, because that's already caught enough, alright? They don't have to worry about it being caught. Shmuel Shari B'Pitam. Rav Amar Sachar Nara Shari, if you have a dam in the river and the fish are massing behind that, you take the fish out on the yontif and use them, because that's already considered to be nitzo, because they're all congregating there. That's only true if it's made out of metal strips. I guess it stays closed that way. It's not going to get moved, so therefore it's considered to be a valid fence, and it's fenced in, and the fish are considered caught. Okay, everybody say Rachmanis to you, Rachmanis on myself, and we'll come back to tomorrow. And tomorrow night, if you come on time, you'll hear the most brilliant thing that Saul Lieberman has said since I started learning his book.